I've always loved history. And if you're a history buff, where you're going to move? You're going to want to be able to move to some place that had some kind of historical significance, and that was Placerville. So we actually moved just outside of Placerville, and we bought this house, as a dream house. It had a wooden deck that went out 30 feet out into the back, and just history just oozed out of the area. Within 9 months of living there, we packed up all our belongings in a U-Haul truck, and we were heading off to seminary. Now, we hadn't been accepted to seminary yet. We just knew that God wanted us to be able to go. And so every night as we would travel, we would stop and we would call and we would say, "Hey, have we been accepted for seminary yet?" "No, you haven't." So we just kept on going and going. And as we got closer and closer to Texas, it just got to be just harder and harder to be able to go. Finally, both of the boys were sick. It was hot, and we just couldn't go on. And there was a deadline that we had to be able to be there, and I knew that the time was getting short. So we had to be there on a Monday and for orientation, but the boys were sick, and there was just no way to be able to be there. So I called them up. I apologized that I couldn't be there, but could I enter even without going to orientation? They told me that I finally had been accepted, and that orientation had been moved from that Monday to another day further down, a day that we could really be able to make it. And so the boys could be able to get well, and we could be able to travel, and we arrived at seminary at the time that we could be able to take and really get to school and get started with everything. And partway through seminary, Kevin was walking with a friend and was coming over to a hardware store that was just in back of where we lived. And as he was walking in between two tin buildings that were used for storage, a man at the hardware store was practicing shooting a compound hunting bow. He missed the target that he was in. It hit the two sides of the buildings, and it hit Kevin, the arrow right in the center of Kevin's forehead. He had brain damage, and he went on to be able to spend another 3 months in the hospital before we got home. And of course, Kevin is our oldest boy, and I can remember he was about 10 years old at the time, and he was sitting at the bottom of the steps of the house, and he knew that he should be able to take and button his shirt, but he couldn't remember how to be able to button his shirt. And Eric, who was the younger brother, was now showing him how to be able to take and do things and remember things and around the house. About a year later, Eric was playing. We lived in the city, but there was the country that was all around us, and Eric went and visited a friend that was in the country, and some weeks later, he came down with a great big tumor on the side of his neck. It was just huge. And the doctor was afraid to be able to operate on it, because if you would take and accidentally cut the nerve, the whole side of Eric's face would just take and sag. We got a surgeon. He was able to take and do the operation on Eric, and he wound up to be fine. But it was really kind of touch and go for both of us at that time. So finally, when we did get out of seminary, we stayed here in Long Beach and served here for 3 years as church planters, both in Los Alamitos and over in Redondo Beach. I'm just fresh out of seminary and really naive, and the Lord was just really working, and I had no idea how He was working, and we finally finished up the 3 years that we were here, and we wanted to be able to buy a little house up in out in Moreno Valley, and so we bought a house out there, and I had this idea that I was going to start a church out there, and unfortunately I wasn't following what the Lord wanted to be able to do, and everything just that I thought I was going to do or what I was going to be able to do, it just all fell apart. And in 1994 we took a month off and took Jan's mom and went to Russia for a month, and it was just incredible. And that experience just opened up everything for us to be able to take. And we thought that, that maybe someday the Lord would be able to bring us back to Russia. And at that time, we started attending Calvary Chapel, North Long Beach. I still didn't know a whole lot about Calvary Chapel, but one day I was serving as an usher. Pastor John announced that there was going to be a 10-day trip to Russia. Boy, my heart just leaped. I just knew that was something that the Lord wanted me to be able to do. First thing out of my mouth when I saw Janice was, Did you hear about the trip to Russia? So immediately we made plans to go, spent 10 wonderful days in Russia, being able to take and share the word with the people there, and we came back home. Still, the Lord was just tugging on our hearts, letting us know exactly, that was exactly what we needed to be able to do.
Hey, Rob and Jan, we're thankful for the ministry we've done together here in Kaluga. Here you've been a pastor for a number of people, young kids and adults too. Vanya and Gana and Helen and Sasha and Marina and Valentina, Tanya's mom and Tanya. I think the list goes on and on. They still remember you, and the impact you had on their lives is still, it's going to be for the whole life. And they remember you, they're praying for you, and we're just thankful that the Lord brought you here and used you here. And I think tonight, at the ordination service that's going to be happening at your church is just acknowledging what the Lord already has done through you, and how the Lord is using you right now. That's great. We're happy for you, and we are proud for you, and we pray that the Lord will bless you. We love you.
We started a whole new ministry here at Calvary Chapel, North Long Beach. It's marvelous how the Lord just leads you. When I went to seminary, I thought that I was going to be a pastor, preacher, teacher. That's just what my forte is, not to be a pastor, preacher, teacher. I'm more of a one-on-one person. It took me a long time to be able to figure that out, and a lot of things a school of hard knocks, I guess you would say. But the Lord just opened up the door for me to be able to work with people on one-on-one, and that's where I flourished, and that's where other people flourished.
What could I say about my brother Rob? I paroled from prison like a year and a half ago, and as soon as I got out, it was like by divine appointment that I moved next door to that brother, and he just embraced me right away and just showed me this love that just really touched my heart. He's shown me how to really be a servant without even thinking about it. His love for other people is just amazing to me. His commitment to the church and just all the things. I often wonder, when I first met him, I was like, man, is he getting paid for this stuff? But no, he's doing it all out of the love of his heart, and that really touched me and taught me how to be more of a servant. And for that, I thank you, Rob, for that.
Anytime you needed anything, Rob was there with, to help me. If I needed to loan me anything, like when we went on the fishing trip, he loaned me his fishing pole, and he's always there to help. If you have a task that needs to be done, he'll be there, and he's always a helpful hand or a word of encouragement or a word of advice, and always with a smile and always from the Lord.